All Three Beards Media podcasts originate from the Gravitate Co-working Studio, sponsored by Revelton Distilling Company.
Welcome back to In the Side of the Storm, where we talk all things Cyclones. We are coming to you live from the Gravitate Co-working Studios and sponsored by our friends Revelton Distillery out of Osceola, Iowa. I'm Dave Larson here with my Storm Team partner, Marcus Pfizer. How are you, Marcus?
Man, they doing better. Been a rough week for the Pfizer household. The spell, the new spell of the COVID virus has hit us once more, but gratefully, we're all coming out of it pretty well. My sister is the one that's taking the last of the sickness, so we got to nurse her back to health, and we're just grateful that it wasn't as bad as the first time when we all got it. But 2024, a couple of us got it in 2021, so to go a few years without keeping the kids healthy and everything like that. You can't complain about that, but yeah, feeling a lot better. I knew something was up last Sunday, when I told you guys I wasn't feeling well, and that's the answer.
Well, my voice is still scratchy, not from last week, but I come down with something as well, but I've been fortunate. I've not tested positive yet. It's just the reality we live in, right? Like you said, 2024, 4 years in, it's just, you're going to come down with something. It's January, February.
Yeah, we're so deep in with herd immunity and all of that stuff, and the different viruses, the different vaccines, and yada 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 that's going on. So we have to understand that now it's going to be looked at more because we understand it more, and so it's more of a harder cold. It's going to be with us for the rest of our lifetime. We know for sure. I mean, it's a common cold that's been around for so long. This is pretty much going to be here for the rest of our lifetime as well. So we just gotta deal with it. Make sure we stay as hydrated and vitamins and all of that as much as we can, and just hope it misses. And if it doesn't, just nurture yourself back to health.
And you're the capital of all things, probably football for the next week. But before we jump into football, we had some incredible games yesterday. The women first with a heartbreaker. They lost to UCF in Central Florida. I watched that, sitting at home, not feeling well. I had nothing to do but watch basketball. And that was a tough one to watch. I don't know if you caught wind of that game, but Central Florida is not a good basketball team. We went down there and just really laid a goose egg, losing 71-66. The women play. They actually have a similar path to what we had the men play last week. So they have no game on Wednesday, but then come back, play at home against first place Oklahoma at 6 p.m. At Hilton on this upcoming Saturday. The men game, I think a lot of us watched last night. There's a bunch of Twitter activity and texting going on, and we saw our friend Chris Williams do this, and now he's become a meme. Sorry about that, Chris. We saw Scott Drew, Baylor coach Scott Drew, with his first ejection. He's been there for 21 seasons, and he was ejected out of his first basketball game last night as well. Ended up being a lot closer of a game than many of us expected. Iowa State at one time was down, I think, 14, 15 points. We thought it was over. That 2-3 zone seemed to really be giving us fits. We did not shoot well at all. did not attack that zone like you need to be able to do. Any takeaways? Let's first talk about that first half. Any takeaways that you saw in that first half against Baylor?
Well, this zone did give us a lot of problems, on the offensive end, but at the same time, we weren't guarding our best either on the defensive end. And when you get those two, going hand to hand on the road in the Big 12 is always going to be a tough uphill battle. We got lucky, I don't know what happened with that whistle and, Coach Drew and that whole situation or whatever, but we had a 16-2 turnaround and then 20 whatever turnaround, and we got some momentum, and then we were able to hold it a lot closer than we had been in the first half. But when you're not guarding anyone, you really, really have to guard in the Big 12, especially on the road. Men or women, like you said, our women went down to UCF and just felt like it was just a totally different game than what they're accustomed to playing. It's just playing on the road in the Big 12. No matter what the team is, you have to be really, really focused, and you got to stop somebody.
Well, I was really surprised in that first half. Taman Lipsey didn't shoot a single shot in the first half. I found that exceptionally surprising. Trey King, I don't think he played his very well in that first half. If it weren't for Keyshawn Gilbert, who shot that long three at the end of the half, we were down by 15 with not a lot of hope.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to play down in Waco, and it's real tough to win as well. But again, it's home games for whatever team in the Big 12, and just as good as our fans is, they're going to have good fans that's coming out to support them. Their teams are going to be that tough-grinded, tough-nosed team, and we just didn't play well at all in the first half. Why Taman didn't shoot, I have no idea. That definitely has never happened in my career. If it wasn't going to happen. If it wasn't going to happen in the first couple of minutes, it definitely was going to happen in the first half. But, we were able to rebound and, just wasn't able to pull out a close one.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, we went on a 20-0 run. Sky Drew got kicked out for the first game ever. At one point, we were up 5-7, and I saw some chatter on Twitter about the referees are letting Iowa State win. I thought, that has never happened. That cannot be possible, that the referees on our Iowa State side, whether it's football or basketball, we've never seen that happen. But sure enough, we were up. The refereeing, and I saw that the Baylor athletic director came out with a comment after the game. He was obviously disappointed, even though they won. I knew something was up because very early in the game, and I don't remember the circumstances, and I wish I would have written it down at the time, but the referees kept going and looking at replay for some basic pieces of the game. And I cannot remember the circumstances behind it. And I thought, this is going to be one of these wacky games in Waco. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. At the end of the game, and Marcus, I want to get your insight on this one. We started to talk about it a little bit before the show started, but the last play of the game, inbounds pass to Momcilovic, and he turned, and we thought we had a long three-pointer that was a game winner. They did not allow for the basket to count, which it didn't count, that was very clear to me. But instead of having 2 seconds left to be able to shoot that, we had 1.2, right?
Right.
Can you explain why you think that happened?
Well, I mean, maybe the rules are different. Again, I was in college 25 plus years ago playing. But I know in the NBA, there are times and instances, if not every game, that there's one referee that's designated that has, they have that box on their hip that controls the clock in the late game situations like that. When you're trying to get the ball in when there's known fouls that's going to happen, because you want to preserve every little point of a second that you can, because I mean, obviously we just proven, a little bit more time would have been beneficial to us. So I don't know if it's a different thing in NCAA. I don't know if they once had it and got away from it, but had that been the case, like I said, the ball went out of bounds or we're taking the ball out, you can see that referee is watching that action, and he can stop the clock and start the clock on his timing. Didn't something occur where they started the clock too fast, and then they had to go back and review it?
Reset the clock. They had to reset the clock.
Right,
yes.
right. Because now you have the score table that's controlling the clock, and the angles are different. You can't really see. So with the referee having that communication box on his hip, if you watch the NBA, you will see one referee has his hand on his hip, and that's them taking the ball out. And as soon as the ball is touched, they click it, and the clock starts. And then when that foul comes, they click it right then and there to try to preserve as much time as possible.
So are you saying that the referee is the one that starts the clock and ends the clock, or is it someone at the scores table?
Well, they're both. They're both. But there's been times where I remember in the NBA, and again, I don't know if that's something that's in NCAA or not, or maybe we were up on everybody at the end of the game, so we had to deal with it in college. But I remember in the NBA that they would have that device that started just in those little late game short, like they don't do it the whole entire game. But in those instances right there, like you want to preserve, because in the NBA, like the game could be pretty much out of reach. And if, it's 0.2 seconds left on the clock and, they drop the ball and the shot clock stops or whatever, they will literally, people will be all on the floor. They will literally get you off the floor and make you take that ball out and throw it in, because you never know what crazy, wacky thing that can happen and the outcome of that. And we had something wacky that happened at the end of the game, but unfortunately, it didn't count for us.
Well, yeah, instead of having 2 seconds or even 1.5, literally,
we 1.5 would have
a tenth of a second, maybe 0.2, but it was that slim a margin by the time that Momcilovic released that ball, and it would have been the shot of ages that would have made Milan Momcilovic a legend in Cyclone lore.
For me, I rather that shot not even go in then, because we're dealing with this like right now. Like had he dunked it off the backboard and be like, oh well. But that going in and us knowing and like, damn, a 0.1, a tenth of the second, 0.2 of the second, 0.3 of the second more on the clock, we would have got that victory. But it is what it is.
So the Cyclones fall to 5-3 in conference play, still very much in the thick of things. One game out. Again, KU and Houston are the league leaders at this point. We've got 10 games left in the conference. Wednesday night, play at Texas. Tuesday night, we're playing at Texas. That should be a big game there. And then Saturday at home against TCU, a 1:00 tip. That'll be an interesting game Saturday, because down there, that was the TCU game against Jamie Dixon that I think that they're looking forward to. They're going to be wanting to come up here to have some revenge against us. So should be another interesting week against some Texas teams.
Yeah, TCU is playing well. They're definitely going to come in with a chip on their shoulder. We know how great of a coach Coach Dixon is. He's definitely having those guys, focus on the things that they didn't do well. All of the turnovers, we were able to make them have that game on the road in the first half is something that they're definitely focusing on. And, anytime, like I said last week, we play these Texas teams, man, it's really, really tough. And we know going down to Austin, Tyrese on there is definitely going to, be up for seeing his former team. It's going to be a dogfight without a doubt. Coming off this Baylor game, hopefully the guys are going to be focused to do what they got to do to remain in the top. We're right there in the hunt, and we're right where we need to be and want to be. So with the 2 wins, the big wins against Kansas and Houston, that has us sitting with a lot of confidence, but we just got to, finish out strong with the rest of the games that we have coming up next.
So take us inside the locker room at this point. Do you think that loss, that Baylor loss, does more for the team, or does it hurt does it hurt more because you feel like you could have won that one?
No, I think it does more. We had a great run my last year, but losing to Oklahoma the way we did in a triple overtime, and then losing to Colorado, with Jacquay Walls just going berserk in overtime, that those were games that we knew we played perfect Some nights it's just not going to happen. So when it doesn't happen, although you much rather have that win, it makes you stronger as a team to know that as good as we played, as strong as we played, as tough as we played, we still didn't come out with the win. So there's another level we need to kick it into. We need to kick it up a notch. And so, a lot of people don't want to talk about more victories. I don't think it's a more victory or more loss or anything like that. But that's one of those ones that, I know Coach Otts is kind of like, yeah, we kind of needed that. We have been playing well, knocked off, two of the biggest teams in the conference so far. To lose that one real close like that, everyone sees from inside what I could have done better. Played terrible in the first half, plays better in the second half. We almost came out with it at the end, but not to get it, you really reflect inside to yourself to know we're right there. We just got to kick it up a little bit.
Well said. So before we pivot over here to some football talk and hearing a word from Revelton, just a note here, Bridget Carlson, former Iowa State basketball player, has signed a 2-year deal with the Minnesota Lynx out of the WNBA. So nice. She returns to the court and they will play. And that's a big deal to get a 2-year contract out of the WNBA. So good for her. They play their first game at Seattle on May 14th, and then a return trip, their home game, if you can make it up to Minneapolis, against the Storm as well on Friday, May 17th. So good for Bridget Carlton, good for the Iowa State women's.
Congrats.
See some of that success there taking shape, and certainly we may see some other signings. Hopefully we see Ashley Jones on the sideline of the WNBA this season too. I think she's currently in Europe, playing overseas and hoping for her name to be called by a WNBA team. So let's take a quick break, hear from a word from our sponsors.
Why take the best corn in the world and make it into fuel when you could make it into whiskey? That's the question that launched Revelton, Iowa's most visible and fastest growing distillery. Owners Rob and Christy Taylor embrace the grain-to-glass philosophy, sourcing ingredients locally and overseeing on-premises production and bottling at their facility in Osceola. One sip and you'll agree that Revelton's handcrafted whiskeys, gins, and vodkas are the best you've ever tasted. And with the launch of their rye whiskey, made with 100% Iowa-grown rye and corn, and their new bourbon coming soon, there's more Revelton to love than ever. Iowa's own Revelton Distillery. ReveltonDistillery.com. The great thing about working from home is working from home. The worst thing is working from home, especially for face-to-face collaborations with customers and coworkers. And let's face it, coffee shop meetings are neither private nor professional. So skip the trip to Starbs and investigate Gravitate Co-working Space. For more than 10 years, Gravitate has provided large and small office and conference spaces perfect for hosting meetings, workshops, or other events, as well as private phone booths for confidential conversations. Plus, all spaces include secure fiber internet, free coffee, and access to a kitchenette. All you need is your laptop. Gravitate does the rest. And renting space at Gravitate is surprisingly affordable. An hour of office space costs about the same as venti caramel macchiatos and breakfast sandwiches for two. Daily and monthly rates are also available with no long-term commitment. Learn more at gravitatecoworking.com. That's gravitatecoworking.com.
All right. Thank you to our sponsors, Gravitate and Revelton. Tonight, just because I'm trying to get over whatever I have, I am not enjoying my Revelton. So,
same here.
Not either.
Same here.
We're in sad shape tonight.
I just asked the missus to bring me another water. I'm just, man, I got to hydrate. I can't do it.
That's right. So you got a big week in your neck of the woods there. The Super Bowl's come to Las Vegas. You're telling us that you got caught in traffic with the presidential motorcade and the Kansas City Chiefs, and a lot of police were coming down the highway as you were, and you got a little nervous.
Yeah, just it was weird. Them sitting on the side of the freeway, the lights were on, but they weren't flashing, and it was more than one. So I was like, okay, so that has to mean something. Maybe when I get home, I can look it up. Then when you got off the off ramps to the main street to get off the freeway, and they, I live in Henderson. The Henderson police had those streets blocked off and coned off, and I'm like, what in the heck is going on? Then I thought to myself, well, okay, well, the Super Bowl, the guys are supposed to be coming in, but I'm thinking, okay, I'm a pro athlete. I know I never played in a championship or anything like that, but these pro athletes, they, and then I got the notification then said that President Biden had flown in too. I said, well, that makes more sense, hopefully. But I know the guys are playing in one of the most important games of the year and everything like that, but the game is not until next Sunday.
So our press credentials apparently were denied because I haven't received any flight information, any hotel information. I did look up some Super Bowl ticket prices, and for Super Bowl 58, any guesses on what the average ticket prices are, Marcus?
The average
price.
I would probably say at least 5,500.
Well, you hold on to your seat here. So when I looked it up earlier this
Vegas,
week,
so this is Vegas, so it's probably at least a third higher than that, probably $7 or $8 grand.
So the average price on secondary market was $10,500.
Wow.
The cheapest I could find, this is with fees, was $8,100 with something called TickPick. I don't know who that is. SeatGeek was $95.60 and Ticketmaster was $87.10.
They said that like the parking is like $350 or something like that.
So if you're going to the Super Bowl, you're going to have to find a way to sneak in like the kids used to do back in the day.
I will watch it right on my 55-inch TV, legs crossed, eating something and enjoying my couch.
And so as I'm home this weekend with really nothing to do, I'm scrolling through, and I found a family that was staying at the same hotel that the 49ers were staying at. And apparently really? That's a very short trip for you.
Yeah. Lake Las Vegas isn't far at all. Matter of fact, it's, the Lake Mead, it takes you to Lake Las Vegas as an exit from my house. So it's not far at all. And then maybe again, that's why, they had so much of it blocked off, because that's where they were heading. But I never saw any buses or anything like that for the teams. I was just making sure that the 85, 90 miles per hour I was doing on the freeway wasn't getting noticed.
So I noticed before we start talking about our friend Brock Purdy, the Super Bowl's renowned for having all sorts of weird stuff happening the week of the Super Bowl, whether it's heaven forbid shootings or late nights out with extracurricular activities, or the very first Super Bowl, I think one of the Green Bay wide receivers was out the night before and stumbled in just in time for the game. Vince Lombardi benched him for the first half before he came out and caught a touchdown pass. So I'm really curious how this is going to work in a city like Las Vegas that's 24/7.
Well, so if the guys are staying out at Lake Las Vegas, that's about a 12 to 14 mile ride from downtown, the strip, maybe a little bit farther, maybe about 25 miles. So maybe that was, the plan to try to, it's really nice out there. It's a lake out there, it's a resort, everything like that. I'm not sure where the guys are going to be practicing, maybe at Sam Boyd, maybe they get to go to a Legion, maybe they go to the Raiders practice facility that's over here in Henderson as well. But I would think that they would try to keep them as far away from the strip as possible. I mean, they understand everything that's going on. There's too much down there to get into, and there's so much down there to get into after the game is over, if you're the victor or not. So I think they're going to be more focused on what they got to do and try to do the best they can to keep everyone that 25 miles away.
So a week from now, we'll be in the midst of watching it. We'll probably be in about the third quarter, late in the third quarter, a week from now. And interesting news this week, Brock Purdy signed a sponsorship agreement with Toyota, who is now has a relationship with the NFL. I think Chris Shipley's on, and you've got a video with Brock Purdy and his new 2024 Toyota Sequoia.
Oh, I'm jealous.
The secret to being in the right place at the right time, it's never taking what got you here for granted. Rising to every moment, meeting every challenge, giving your best, then giving some more. Because there is no best, only better. Proud partner of the San Francisco 49ers and forever faithful. Toyota, let's go play.
How cool is it that we have an Iowa State quarterback, much less any player, but we've not been exactly known as quarterback university. Brock Purdy's starting in the NFL and has signed a major endorsement deal like that with Toyota. How cool is that?
Extremely cool. I said last year, not only was he going to be the starter, as good as that team was, I felt like he was going to lead them to the Super Bowl. Lo and behold, that's where we are. But definitely jealous. That Sequoia is definitely, the top of the list of a vehicle I would want. Got a price tag of about $85-90 right now, so that's a little too rich for my retired NBA, salary right now. So, but this is really, really nice for him to garner that. He's been playing well as all deserves, and I'm looking forward to him playing well. The game that's coming on Sunday.
So I look back, and there's been a lot of quarterbacks that are named MVP. So out of the 58 Super Bowls, and I think that there's been some duplication where you've got two co-MVPs, 32 quarterbacks have been named Super Bowl MVP, followed by 8 wide receivers, 7 running backs, just 11 defensive players, and 1 kick returner who was Desmond Howard with the Packers. So if Brock Purdy is named one of the Super Bowl MVPs, wouldn't that be something?
That would be amazing. Absolutely amazing. But there's no surprise to us. Cyclones is really no surprise to us. He's taking a lot of flack for whatever reason. He's a football player. That's the most important thing. He's a football player who plays his position, who does what the coach wants him to do, does what the team needs him to do, and he wins ball games. And what else are you supposed to expect or ask from the kid? Like, he's doing exactly what he's supposed to be doing. He's playing in the freaking Super Bowl. Come on now.
Now, if he's named the Super Bowl MVP, does he not become the greatest, not just the Iowa State player of NFL history, but doesn't he move ahead of all other Iowa University athletes that have played in the NBA or NFL? Doesn't he become the number 1 player in NFL history of any Iowa college?
I mean, what else can you say? I mean, like, that's arguably the most important position in the game of football. We know that, all the other positions are important, but we know quarterback is the quarterback. And it's going to be a tall task, going against that guy on the other side, because he's really good and can really play. And he's really going to have to up his level of play to compete, which we feel like he's going to be able to do because, those type games brings out the best in Brock Purdy. But without a doubt, he's as we've begin to get better and better and better in our student athletes and sports and things like that, it's time out for people to stop thinking that we can produce, athletes on a high level to be in positions like this. He was blessed enough to, as they say, be Mr. Irrelevant, but he had to earn his job. And there was some quarterbacks that was there, and he was the 3rd or 4th on the depth chart, and now he's the starter. So give him the respect that he deserves, and let's go from there.
Well, I saw that the Iowa State football team picked up a commit from Algona this week that he was looking at Texas A&M as one of those schools, highly regarded, and chose Iowa State partially because of Brock Purdy and what he's seen out of Brock Purdy. And ironically, Texas A&M had also recruited and made a scholarship offer to Brock Purdy. And here we sit today with Brock in the Super Bowl, and we've got more athletes that are coming in that have seen that success. So that's really exciting for this program.
Yeah. Being able to watch, as a young guy, say the OGs in front of you have success, make you want to be a part of that. I've told the story all the time. Kenny Pratt, Kelvin Cato, Sean Bankhead, Dedrick Willoughby, rest in peace to Dedrick, J.C. Holloway. Those guys made me want to be a part of something at Iowa State, especially when they beat Kansas in the Big 8 tournament. That was the defining moment for me. And I got a lot of flack in high school. You're a McDonald All-American. You going to Iowa State? Then a lot of people were saying Iowa. I had to correct them with that. A lot of people say Ohio State. I had to correct them with that. But I told them, this is going to be something special for me, and the rest is history. So with, the Sage Rosenfels that we had come through, and Seneca Wallace's, and all the other great quarterbacks that we had before Brock Purdy. Brock was able to come in and play phenomenal football, and now he's having the success that he's having in the NFL. It's a no-brainer. Plus, we playing, a tough conference in the Big 12, so it's not like you're not going to be seen, get the notoriety that you need if you're trying to move on to the next stage in life, which is the NFL or the NBA. So
it's just going to piss off all the Hawkeye fans if Brock Purdy's named Super Bowl MVP. I cannot wait to see it.
That's going to be a fun day for me. I'm really going to be on Twitter heavy on Sunday. They love it when I'm on Twitter heavy on Sunday.
So there's not a lot we can say really about the Super Bowl. We'll probably take next week off so we can enjoy it and watch it, and we'll come back and talk about the week after. But the NFL the football schedule was released this week as well for next season. As a player, was that something you look forward to? Just seeing what that schedule looked like? Did you do any forecasting in advance going, oh, hey, look, we get these games back to back, or I wonder what that's going to be like as a player? Is that something you looked at?
Once it came out, yeah, but in the NBA is way more games, so it's, we talking about this, that was during a time where there were some times where we had, 4 games in 5 days, 4 and 6, 5 and 7, like games and stuff like that. Like it was a whole lot of games. Like you just, had to get yourself mentally prepared and geared up for it. But football is a little bit different. It's pretty much every Sunday, not as many games, and you probably can plan a little bit better with the family, if you want to take them on trips and stuff like that. But for us, it was, everywhere. And we just knew we had a, shit ton of games all week. So
the interesting thing of note, several notes here. We have 2 bye weeks scheduled. We haven't had that. I think we had something similar during the COVID year. It's the last known memory that I can think of that we had 2 bye weeks like that. Start off with North Dakota, they're a big Division II or subdivision FBS, whatever they're calling it now, powerhouse. I mean, they're usually ranked in the top 1 or 2. Really good. Then we go to Iowa the following game, have our first bye week before we play Arkansas State. And I say that with a smile. I hope that doesn't trip us up at all. But then we start the southern trip. We go at Houston, see Baylor at home. We go out to Morgantown, West Virginia, who had a pretty good year this year. They seem to have turned things around. So that looks to me to be a tougher game. And then we play Central Florida at home. I'm actually looking forward to, if you're talking about all the home games next year, I think that home game against UCF is one that I've got marked that I'm really looking forward to, in addition to Baylor, just because our teams so closely resemble one another, followed by a bye week again, and then a home game against Texas Tech, at Kansas. Although that's not really at Kansas. Marcus, you may not have heard, but Kansas is going through a stadium renovation. So next year we get to play Kansas at Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City. I have a feeling that there's going to be more Cyclone fans in Arrowhead than there are going to be Kansas fans there.
Along with Malachi Curvey.
Well, won't that be his senior year in high school, though?
Is he? I thought he was a senior. I thought he was a senior this year.
So then
next year he's going to be there.
Cincinnati at Utah, who is quick becoming perhaps the most hated fan base in the Big 12. And then we come back and playing Kansas State. And when there was a schedule release on Twitter, the Iowa State Athletics Department put out sort of a game by game. And one of the games, the one game at Morgantown, it shows Rocco Beck calling his dad up and asking his dad, hey, who are you going to be cheering for when we go out to Morgantown and Rocco's dad turns the camera and says, "Go Cyclones!" And then in preparation for the Kansas State game, all you can see is a aerial view of Abu Sama running in the snow on Cyclone or in Jack Trice Stadium in the snow, getting practice time in for a return trip of the Kansas State Wildcats to Iowa State. So that was a fun little piece that the Iowa State football team put together in preparation for the schedule release.
Yeah, I'm excited about the UCF and the Cincinnati games. Like they've had some good years the last couple of years. We really don't know how to prepare for them yet. So those are the two games that I'm really excited to see how we fare against those teams, and Houston as well. They definitely have some tough teams that they've been putting out on the field out there. So not to say we're overlooking the other guys, but what I'm curious to see how they're going to fare in the Big 12, and how we're going to do against them.
Yeah, it should be a good season. I think that we've kind of known who we were going to be playing. The question is just the order and what that was going to look like. Right. If memory serves me, and Chris, I don't know if you have it there, but I was going through my Twitter timeline to see what I had posted, but there's a couple of games where I'm not really happy about that. Here we go here. We've got two of those games where it's going to really be Thanksgiving break. The first game where I think it's the Friday before Thanksgiving and, the Saturday before Thanksgiving and, students are taking off. I'm concerned about that game. And then there's the following 2 weeks later when just as students are coming back from break. I don't know that they'll all be making it back in time, but if anyone could put butts in those seats, it's Jamie Pollard. He does a really good job about making sure that the stadiums are filled, and I'm sure that he'll figure out a way to make sure that we've got good attendance there. Another comment, there were some games that are on the schedule that were a Thursday, Friday, Saturday flex. As a fan, I can appreciate not having that because I like to know it's a Saturday game. I may not know the time yet, but I hate that. Well, it could be flexed into a Thursday primetime game, or we could play on Saturday, or we could be a Friday night game. That's got to be frustrating as a fan to be able to not know what your schedule is going to look like until even a couple of weeks before that game takes shape. So should be an interesting season for us for next year football season. We have a lot to be excited about with coming out the heels of the Super Bowl and Brock Purdy's appearance in there.
So do we play down at Arizona this next year?
We have no Arizona games this year. I think that comes up. They'll rotate the schedule every year a little bit, and I'm not quite certain. One thing I was a little surprised at is we were told that we would have a protected rival, and we all thought it made the most sense to be Kansas State. Well,
right.
Of course, Kansas State and Kansas has to be protected, and I understand that. So this year, for 2023, it was BYU, and we all thought that makes no sense, BYU to be a protected rival. Right. Well, now moving forward, I would assume BYU, Utah would be paired together.
Right.
The Arizona schools would be paired together. Frankly, I don't know who our protected rival is at this point, or even if that exists.
Yeah, that's going to be weird.
It's a new reality. I'm going to miss having the opportunity. That was the one thing that I think the Big 12 had that the other conferences didn't, that we had a chance to play one another. You really did have a true champion. Even though at the end we had a championship game, everyone had a chance to play one another. And that was so much fun during 2020 when Iowa State was one of the top two teams. We got to prove it on the field every single week. I'm going to miss that part of the Big 12.
Yeah. With the realignment and adding of the schools and things like that, we definitely understand what it's about. But, like you said, we're going to miss the old days of understanding and knowing who we got to go through and considering yourself the outright champion at the end of the day. But we're welcoming the new schools. There's definitely bigger opportunities for the kids to be able to perform and have success in other areas and other states and things like that. But that time, I guess, for now is gone.
And I did find my other note there. It's the one game I'm a little bit, if you could say, hey, what game concerns you the most? It's the game. While we get a chance to go to Arrowhead, and I truly believe Cyclone Nation will show up. They always have when we played a couple games against Kansas State. Of course, the Eddie Robinson Kickoff Classic against Florida State, the infamous Seneca was in game. That was packed with Iowa State fans. But Kansas will be coming off of a bye week in preparation for Iowa State. I don't like that part of the schedule at all. That game makes me nervous.
Well, I mean, hopefully, we're playing great at that time. Hopefully they're, a little more relaxed than normal, and being able to play at Arrowhead is going to be a different atmosphere. Well, like you said, it's kind of be like Hilton South when we packed down for the Big 12 basketball tournaments and things like that. So we'll see what happens. I'm gonna keep my eye on that game myself. That may be one that I may try to circle on the calendar and take a flight out to.
That would be a short flight. I say we get Rebelton road trip going. And it's like we're in college again. It's a bunch of people in one room sleeping on floors, halfway on a couch. We'll get it done.
Probably going to be bedtime 10:30 to 11 o'clock instead of when we were in college up all night.
I don't know about you. My bedtime's about 9 o'clock now. So.
I wish. My 8-year-old busts in my door too much at night for it to be 9 o'clock. Her bedtime's supposed to be 9:30, but
they never listen. They never listen.
Never listen.
All right. Well, Marcus, it's been good seeing you. Brent, we hope to see you back. He had some other commitments tonight. We hope to see him here in another couple of weeks. And big game next weekend. Iowa State turnout. Cheer on our Cyclone Brock Purdy in the Super Bowl again as the 49ers take on the Kansas City Chiefs. That's another edition of In the Side of the Storm. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you again in 2 weeks.